Hello, everyone. Oh, let's see if we're starting. I think so. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Verbling. This hour on Verbling, the next in my great short stories series. Let's see if I can speak today. We're doing the second part of our class on Jon Updike's short story, The Happiest I've Been. If you had a chance to read the story first, that would be great, because we're going to pick out some passages that hopefully talk about the key ideas and give us the general structure of the story, and then we're going to analyze it and discuss it together, because we won't have time to read the entire story. Well, that's a bit about the story and the class. Here's a bit about me. I'm Jon-Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. Here are 3 quick rules to help you participate. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up. And as you know, that means turn off your mic when you're not speaking so we can keep the classroom nice and quiet. And also, tune in to the new vocabulary you're going to learn so you can use it and I can correct you. And finally, open up to your classmates and relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. Excuse me. Let me just get my name on the board, and we'll get started. Give me just a second here. I'm having a little trouble with Firefox today, so that's what took me so long to get the class started. Hold on 1 second here. Excuse me. 1 second, almost there. Okay. Okay, I think it's working now. Let's see. Is it working? Yes, it is. All right. So, great to see everyone. Nice to see you, Hyde and Raphael and Anton. Okay, fantastic. And let's see. Andrew. Now, there's a name I recognize, but I don't know if we've met. I'm just going to mute you for a second, Raphael, because I'm getting a lot of noise on your line, okay? But you can turn it on when you're ready to speak. Andrew, let me just say a quick hello to you, because I don't think I know you. I'm not sure.
Hello.
Have we met? I can't remember. I think we have, actually.
I think so.
Where are you from, Andrew?
From Russia?
Well, did you change your picture?
Probably. Not sure.
Okay.
But I did it a long time ago.
Okay. Because I kind of think I remember you, but if I can't remember where you're from or your picture, then it usually means that we haven't met. But maybe we have. I think we have. Well, listen, everyone. Here's what I'm going to do. You've got the link in the... Hold on a second. You've got the link in the class material. I'm going to give it to you in the chat window as well. There you go. Hello, Yeah, I'm having major problems with Firefox. Next class, I'm not using Firefox. I'm going to share my screen with you as well. I'm going to try to share it right now in the chat window. See it?
Okay.
See it? Okay. Okay. And I'm going to share my screen as well. The reason is because I've marked out a few passages that I think you ought to take a look at. And so what we're probably going to do is just look at those passages in particular, and then we're going to focus on what we think the story means. And I'm going to give you a few ideas to think about as we read. So let me just get to my story here. Hold on a second here.
I've put the links in the box.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, I might have to do something with my computer. It's really slow again today. I don't know what's going on. Ever since Firefox updated, nothing is working right. There was a big update 2 weeks ago or something like that. Okay, but let's give it a try. Yesterday I had to leave and re-enter the class today. Let's see if I can get this to work. Hold on. So, okay. Let's see. Okay. So you should be able to see the document on my computer. That's the first page. Let's see if I can go down. All right. So what we're going to do is start with what we read before. Just a quick summary. I put all of that in blue. So you'll see GSS, Great Short Stories 13. Oh no, this should be 14, I think. 14. Updike's The Happiest I've Been. So for people who were following along in the last class, I don't know, did any of you have a chance to read the story before class began, just so I know? Or have none of you read it? Have any of you had a chance to read it already?
No.
Yeah, I attended formal class, but I forgot. I forgot the story.
We'll go over it again. Andrew and Raphael, did you have a chance to read the story already?
No, I haven't read it yet.
Okay, you're going to be lost. That's why I put in the description, try to read it before class. Because what we did is we did a big introduction. We read about half the story. And then today I'm going to skip around and just give you some important points. We're going to read just some important points in the story, not absolutely everything. Otherwise, these classes will go on for an entire week, and I think that might defeat the purpose. But, okay, Hyde. Let's do this, Hyde. Tell me more or less what you remember from the beginning of the story, and then I'll add a few details. Okay? And Jose, we just began, so follow along, and I'll bring you up to speed in just a second. So what do you remember more or less from the beginning, Hyde?
Main character was a young man.
Right.
He had a friend.
That's right.
And he went to the grandparents' house. And grandfather said, "You shouldn't believe the person wearing a red necktie and their hair combed with water."
Right. Well, you shouldn't trust people wearing a red necktie and with their hair parted down the middle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He said, and his friend who came to pick him up at his grandparents' house or his parents' house kind of fits that description. This guy Neil kind of fits that description. His hair is slicked back with water, and I don't know if it's parted, but he's wearing a suit. He kind of fits the description of someone you shouldn't trust, according to his grandfather. That's right. Let me ask you a question, Hyde. Where are the two boys going? So Neil picks up our main character. We're going to call him...
College. The same college.
To... Yeah, basically that's right. He's gonna drive him to Chicago, and he's gonna go off to college for his second year. But he's gonna meet. Ooh, someone's got a loud connection. Uh-oh. Jose, I'm just gonna mute you for a second because we got a lot of noise on your line. Okay, but you can turn on your microphone when you're ready to speak in just a second. So right now we're doing a quick summary for Jose and Andrew specifically, and I don't know, Raphael, if you had a chance to read the story, but a quick summary of the beginning. So basically, as Hyde said, our main character, we don't know his name, but we're going to call him John because he seems a lot like John Updike, the author. Seems that way because he's from Pennsylvania. John Updike was from Pennsylvania. The story is written in the early 60s or late 50s. Kind of reminds me of the time when John Updike was young and started writing. So we're going to call him John for the sake of argument. Actually, later in the story, he is called John. But for now, we don't know his name. Long story short, his friend Neil comes to pick him up, as Hyde said, from his parents' house. His grandparents are there. From his grandparents' house. Because his parents are somewhere else. He doesn't live with his parents. His grandfather gives him some advice. Don't trust people that are dressed well and look too good to be true. And his friend Neil looks a little too good to be true. He's a little bit too dressed up. Something maybe is going on. And Neil is going to drive him to Chicago, where he's going to meet his girlfriend, his new girlfriend, that he decided he was in love with, whatever that means. And they're going to drive off to, they're going to take the train to the university together. And, hi, do you remember where Neil is going to go? He's not going to university.
Anymore.
What's that?
Please don't ask me anymore.
Okay. Well, you were the only one here that's in the other class, so I have to ask you. Well, Neil is going to Korea. What do you think was happening in the 1950s with Korea and the United States? Does anyone know the history? The history of America? Absolutely. So this guy is going off to the Korean War, basically. So that is an important detail, I think, because it's not really discussed in the story, but anyone who's American, particularly the age of the author, will understand. It doesn't need to be stated. We know what that means. So let's keep all that in mind. We're going to, before I say anything else, I want to just read two quotes to you. I've put them over here. And this is from an article about Jon Updike. I have the link there. I can give it to you in the other document in just a second. But two things I want you to keep in mind as we read parts of the rest of the story. I'll read these two quotes for you, and I want you to think about them as we read. The author of this article, you can see him here. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let's see if I can get to the top. No, I can't. Can I? Hold on a second. Yeah, there we go. This is from the New Yorker, which is the magazine where Jon Updike used to publish his stories. So we have this critic here, Louise Menad, writing about Jon Updike and how we should appreciate him. Okay, I'll put the link in the story text as well. But there's 2 points that she makes, which I think are really interesting. We should think about them. The first is, I'll just read them. She says the difficulty of putting into words the effect a story produces is part of the point. She means this in general, but specifically about Jon Updike. The story is words. The effect is wordless. The story is words, but the effect is wordless. Or at best, whoa, like you read something and you suddenly realize something new. Whoa. James Joyce, this is the Irish writer, the famous modernist writer. James Joyce called the effect an epiphany, a term whose theological connotations have, over the last year, led to a lot of critical misunderstanding. So he called this idea the epiphany, and everyone thought he was talking about religion, but there was another meaning, a more common meaning that he probably had in mind. So she says, what Joyce meant by an epiphany was, he said, just a revelation of the whatness of a thing. Oh my God, what does that mean? In other words, a sudden apprehension of the way the world unmediatedly is. That is a very interesting and important sentence. I'm going to underline it. In other words, the epiphany for Joyce, and what we'll see in Jon Updike, is a sudden understanding of what the world is like outside of your point of view, outside of the point of view of you or maybe the character in the story. The big picture, sudden realization of the big picture. Language being one of the principal means by which the world is mediated, the epiphany is an experience beyond or after or without words. So we use words to get beyond words, to get to a real understanding. She gives an example. At the end of one of Joyce's short stories, called The Dead, it's about people who are in, basically, part of the story is about the fact that the marriage between the man and the woman is not going very well. At the end of the story, there's an image of a graveyard, and it begins, The snow was general all over Ireland. And she says, this sentence is banal and literal as a weather report. And she goes on to say, but if The Dead, the short story by Joyce, works, then that sentence, when it comes, triggers the exact shiver of recognition. You know, shiver, like when you are uncomfortable, when you're cold, you shiver. When you're scared, you shiver, like an involuntary movement where your body shakes. So if that sentence, if The Dead works, then that sentence, when it comes, triggers the exact shiver of recognition that Joyce wants you to have. So it's words that lead to an understanding that are beyond words. So she's saying it's nothing really that mysterious. It is a gift to be able to write that well. But it's just using words to get beyond the words and to get beyond our normal understanding of the world, to get beyond our own point of view. So we need to think about that with Jon Updike because she's making a comparison. Okay, and one more thing she says, going back to James Joyce's Epiphany. She says later on in the article, but everywhere you find the Eucharistic metaphor that was the heart of Joyce's aesthetics. In other words, this idea of the Epiphany. Mimesis, that means in writing or in art, that means copying reality, the way we copy it. Mimesis as the transubstantiation of dead matter into spirit. Well, that's part of the religious thing, the religious idea of epiphany. So let me just explain that. What she's trying to say here is that this epiphany is that something dead, something that is not alive, like words on a page, or like someone else's memory, or a story, something that we don't have a personal connection with, is transubstantiation, transformed from something dead into something very alive. So that's one way to look at it. Think about that. Think about that idea of a sudden understanding beyond words, through words. Think about that, and getting beyond our own point of view as we read the next passages. Okay, so I've got a few things for you to read. Let's go to the next part. There we go. So if you're following along, we are on, we're on page 5. We're going to read the beginning of the next section and one or two parts that are important, okay? So, oh, we got a full house suddenly. Thank God. I'll tell you what. Let's go. Well, you're each going to have a little chance to read, a little part to read. Let's start with Yuki, and we'll work our way from right to left. So, Yuki, can you take this first paragraph, at the beginning of part 2 of the story?
Okay. Just wait.
Sure. By the way, while he's finding the page, if there's any questions about that quote I was reading, because I know it's not very easy to understand, just ask. I want you to think about it as we read the rest of the story. Think about the details that are presented by the author and why they're there. Okay? So if any questions, just ask. All right, Yuki, are you ready?
Okay.
Take it away.
It was 4 miles from the farm of Ollinger. We entered by
Buchanan. Buchanan.
Buchanan. We entered by Buchanan Road, divided past the tall white brick house I have lived in until I was 13. My grandfather had bought it before I was born, and his stocks became bad, which had happened in the same year. The new owners had strong colored bulb all along the front door frame and the edges of porch roof. Downtown, the cardboard Santa Claus still nodded in the drugstore window, but the loudspeaker on the undertaker's lawn and had stopped broadcasting carol. It was quite dark now. So the axis of straight cable by cord of different lengths. Lady Schumann lived on the other side of town, and newer side. Lights ran all the way up the front edges of his house and across the rain gutter. The next door neighbor had plywood leaned and fried it on his front lawn, and snowman of paper maquiche running tipsily. His eyes were X's against the corner of his house. No real snow has fallen yet that winter. The air this evening, though, hinted that harder weather was coming.
Okay, let's take a break for a second because that's a lot of it's a lot of detail. First, let's look at the words I put in bold because they're important to understanding the story. Does anyone know what stocks are?
Yes, stocks is a building.
Investment to the company.
Yeah, that's it. Stocks are an investment in a company, a portion of a company.
Mhm.
So, when did everyone's stocks go bad? Before 2008, when did everyone's stocks go bad in the world?
Economic situation is getting worse, I guess.
That's true. And what year specifically did everyone's stocks go bad in history?
Before World War?
Uh-huh. Remember the crash of 1929 when the stock market crashed?
Before World War First, World War One.
Well, after a little bit after World War One, a little bit after. Actually, let's see, 10 years after. And so that during the 30s, it led to the Great Depression, right? So probably this grandfather bought this house in the 20s. Then there was the Great Depression, and they lived there during the Great Depression. Probably that's what it means. Okay, there's a couple other important words. Bulbs, colored bulbs, reindeer and sleigh, and snowman. What are these things? What does that?
Light bulbs.
Light bulbs, exactly. Colored light bulbs.
Lined up color light bulbs.
That's right. So, what time of year is it? If we see a reindeer and sleigh, not a real one. These are made of wood, plywood, a cheap wood. And we see a snowman of paper mache, right? So we see these things. What time of year is it?
Christmas.
Exactly. Yeah, it's Christmas. So in other words, as he's driving from the farm where he lived to Ollinger, the little city, the little town, everyone has their colored lights up, and a Santa Claus in their front lawn, and a snowman, right? But listen, there's a very important detail here. At the end, it says no real snow had fallen that winter. That gives us the idea that snow is going to fall, that there's a coldness that's going to happen in the future. We know it's going to happen. So there's a kind of feeling of apprehension, right? On the other hand, it's also very literal. It's not just a metaphor. It's also literal. The snow hasn't fallen yet. It's a little bit early in the season. But nothing is there by accident. So if winter hasn't come, think about that. Remember that sentence I read from the critic? What was it? If James Joyce's story The Dead works, then that sentence, snow was general all over Ireland, snow had fallen all over Ireland, triggers the same shiver of recognition that Joyce wants you to have. In other words, just like Joyce's story, it's not an accident we're talking about snow and about the coming winter. Maybe this is the first time in his life that our narrator has really begun to feel that he's gotten older and he's beginning to sense that there's a future, and that maybe at the end of that future, there's going to be a winter, a coldness, kind of like in the story The Dead by James Joyce. It's just a feeling, I could be wrong, but I wonder if that's not an important detail that's understated. Does anyone know what I mean by understated? When you understate something, is that term clear? To
Yes.
understate, yeah? Well, if I understate something, is it, let me see. What do you think is being understated? Now, this is my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But in that sentence, no real snow had fallen yet that winter. What do you think might be the understatement? At least to me, what do you think might be the understatement, Yuki?
It's not maybe it understates that it is not real snow. Situation is not real. Neighbor made a snowman and Linda, not from snow, but but made of paper mache.
That's a good point.
So
yeah, that's a very good point.
So it is
So,
faked reality, some kind of.
Exactly.
I think after want to understate some faked reality here.
And the fake reality that he's understating is kind of like the world you live in when you're 19 years old or 20 and you're a sophomore in college. Nothing's real yet, but you have just a little hint of reality. The snow is going to fall and you know it. I think that's a good point. We're entering a world of play, a play world with paper mache snowmans and Santa Clauses and colored lights. So it's kind of a safe, not real area. It's like it's also kind of a eternal Christmas. At least that's the period that he might be talking about. And the snow is.
It reminds me of David Lynch's film. It's a kind of virtual reality, some kind of not real things.
It's like the beginning of Blue Velvet without the ear.
Yes.
It is. There's this attention to detail about really American things, but it's a little more subtle than David Lynch, because David Lynch is a comedian mostly, you know, and Jon Updike is not really a comedian. Maybe he should be, but I agree with you. But anyway, if you're going to appreciate Jon Updike, I think you've got to see that there's no accidents here. The fact that we're driving past, I think that's a good point. We're driving past this fake play, toy, Christmassy atmosphere. It's not an accident. It's setting up this play world that they still live in. And they know that there's a harsh winter, but it's not time to deal with it yet. The harsh winter could be anything. It could be the Korean War. It could be getting older. It could be life itself. Life is not always fun. I mean, but something out there, some reality is not, it's coming, but it's not there yet. So we'll think about that as we go on. Raphael, why don't you take, this is a long paragraph, but, oh yeah, why don't you take it to the bottom of the page, on the next paragraph. Raphael, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah.
Can you see where we are? Here where it says the Schumanns.
The Schumanns' living room felt warm. In one corner, a blue spruce drenched with tinsel reached to the ceiling. Around
Spruce is a tree, by the way, just so everyone knows. Sorry. Spruce is a kind of a tree.
Around its spot surged a drift of wrapping paper and ribbon and boxes. A few still containing presents, gloves and diaries and other small properties that hadn't yet been absorbed into the main stream of affluence. The ornamental balls were big as baseball, and all either crimson or indigo. The three were so well dressed, I felt self-conscious in the dress for a party.
Oh, wait, you missed a line. I felt self-conscious in the same room with it. See?
Oh, sorry. I felt self-conscious in the same room with it, without a coat or tie, and wearing an old green shirt too short in the sleeve. Everyone else was dressed for a party. Then Mr. Schumann stamped in comfortingly, crushing us all into one underneath his welcome.
Yeah, so you have to read it like this, because believe me, these sentences are not easy, even for a native speaker. So what he's saying here is crushing us all into one. In other words, the father of this guy looks at all the little kiddies as one group, not as individuals. So like grouping us all together in his mind or with his stare, crushing us all into one. Where were we? We were underneath his. We were one inside of his welcome of, hi everyone or whatever, or the way he looked at us or what he said. So that part's a little confusing. Sorry, go ahead, Raphael.
Everyone else was dressed for a party. Then Mr. Schumann stamped in comfortingly, crushing us all into underneath his welcome, Neil and me, and the three other boys who had shown up so far. He was dressed to go out on the town, in a camel top coat and silver silk muffler, smoking a cigar with the band still on. You could see in Mr. Schumann where Larry got the red hair and white eyelashes and the self-confidence. But what in the song was smirking and pussy was in the father true and masterful. What the one used to make you nervous, the other used to put you at ease. Oh, it's difficult to read. While it's difficult because when you are writing, I can see the document. While Mr. was jollying us so Losner, a new interest of Larry's, and the only other girl at the party so far was talking nicely to Mr. Nodding. With her,
this is a weird thing because it's to Mrs.
To Mrs.
and then
to
nodding,
yeah,
nodding her head. So he's calling the parents Mr. and Mrs. He's not saying their names. Talking nicely to Mrs.
To Mrs. Nodding with her entire neck and fingering her crisp pearl and blowing cigarette smoke through a corner of her mouth to keep it away from the middle-aged woman's face. Each time Sue spat out a plume. So spat out a plume. Spat out the self of honey hair overhanging her temple bob. Mrs. Schumann beamed serenely above her mink coat and rhinestone pocketbook. It was odd to see her dressed in the trappings of the prosperity that usually support her god nature invisible.
Okay, let's stop there. Let's stop there just for a second, because that line is really, I think it's kind of important. We got to make sure it's clear. Look at this. Now they're talking about this guy who's having this party, his mother. Well, let's go back to the beginning for a second. How is our narrator, John, dressed? Is he dressed well? What do you think, guys? Is he dressed well?
No,
No.
he dressed not so decent. He dressed very simple, not so decently.
Right.
He wear just a shirt, and the size is quite big.
And why is he dressed so badly? Why is he dressed so badly compared to everyone else? Why is he poor?
I think his grandfather or grandfather picked both for him. No.
No, I would say that he was not expecting to go to a party. This guy Neil kind of tricked him. Right?
Yes.
So he just wasn't expecting.
It was unexpected for me to join the party. He just headed for his girlfriend's hometown, Chicago.
Yeah, and not even today. He was going to drive this big distance. So by the time he got to Chicago, he probably would have a shower and change his clothes anyway before he saw his girlfriend. In other words, Neil tricked him. Neil shows up drunk in a suit, and he says, "Oh, we're going to drive to Chicago." Guess what? They're not driving to Chicago. They're going to a party. So
his character. On his character, he is no concern. It is not a matter for him what he wear. So it is his character. That's just character. He's no concern.
That's true. Probably he's not pretentious. That's probably true.
He's such
a absolutely. But look at everyone around him.
Before I read for my lesson, maybe his mother or grandmother, I forgot, said you should be careful about girls.
Yes. He's been. Not only did she warn him, but her and the guy Neil seem to have some understanding between them that he should be careful.
But instead, Neil, he want to be attractive for the girls.
Yeah, he seems to be trying very hard. But also, look at the people around him. This guy, Mr. Schumann, right? So we don't know much about him, but we know that this is his house and his son is having a party. And it says, you could see Mr. Schumann where Larry got his red hair and white eyelashes. Well, if any of you have read Charles Dickens or something like that, you know that red hair can be a symbol for someone who is devious or devilish. And maybe John Updike is making a little joke here, because it says, what was in the sun, that's Larry Schumann, what was in the son smirking and pushy was in the father shrewd, right, smart and masterful. What used to make you nervous with the son, right, was used to put you at ease in the father. So the landscape, the social landscape around this unpretentious guy who's wearing an old green shirt is also something we can notice. Maybe people are not what they seem, or he's just getting this idea, because suddenly he sees a bigger picture. He says, oh, that's what the father's like, and he starts to get a picture. Oh, and remember earlier we saw that he realizes that Neil is different around his mother than he is around him, and it's the first time he's noticed. So things are not quite what they seem. Well, let's do this. We're going to look at two important passages. So maybe I can have Hyde read one and Anton read the other. These are important to get the gist of the story, I think. So Hyde, let's take a look at the beginning of the party, and Anton, we're going to skip down to the very end for yours. Go ahead, Hyde. Can you?
What place?
Can you see on screen where I am in red? The party. This was the party. The party was the party I had been going to. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it on screen?
Yes, but it's small, so I want to read another link.
One
So
second. Hold on.
okay, I got it. The
You got
party
it?
was okay. The party was
Go
a
for it.
party. Had been going to all my life, beginning with Anne Maron's first Halloween party, which I attended as a hot, lumbering, breathless, and blind Donald Duck. My mother had made the costume, and the eyes kept slipping.
Slipping, because he couldn't see. He couldn't see through the mask. In other words, he was probably a little kid.
And were farther apart than my eyes, so that even when the crowds were of ghosts,
Right?
parted, it was to reveal the frustrating, depthless words seen with the one eye, and who, because her mother loved her so much as a child, had I'm sorry, I lost.
Had remained someone?
Remained somewhat childish.
Childish, right.
I and another boy and girl who were not involved in any romantic crisis went down into the Schumanns basement to play circular ping pong. Armed with paddles, we stood each at the side of the table, and when the ball was stroked, ran around it, counterclockwise, slapping the ball and screaming. To run better, the girls took off their heels and ruined their stockings on the cement floor. Their faces and arms, shoulder sections became flushed, and when the girl lunged forward toward the net, the stiff necklace of her
Wait. The stiff neckline of her dress.
stiff neckline of her semi-formal dress dropped away, and the white arcs of the brassiere could be glimpsed, cupping fat. And when she reached high, her shaved armpit away, and the wire arcs of her gleamed like a bit of chickman skin. And an earring of ant flew off, and the two connected
rhinestones
skidded to lie near the wall. Among the Schumanns power mower and badminton poles and empty bronze motor oil cans twice punctured by triangles. All these images were immediately lost in the whir of our running. We were dizzy before we stopped, and leaned on me, getting back into her shoes.
Right. So let's take a second here. He's remembering. He said this party he's going to was the party he'd been going to all his life. This is the passage that a lot of people quote in the story. That's one reason I'm having you read it. I think this is a moment of young realization, and it comes back to his mind at this moment. Well, first of all, what's going on? He's dressed like Donald Duck, right?
Maybe this is a Halloween party for young people. Then he enjoyed this party.
That's absolutely right. So, and he remembers it, and it's kind of a joke too, because his mother had made the costume, and he couldn't see out of it, right? Because he was hot, lumbering, breathless, and blind. The costume was hot. He couldn't see out of the eyes, so he shows up all dressed up, and he's like a walking into walls or something like that, right? Because the eyes were too far apart. So it's this comical image. And what happens? So I don't know how old he is, but he's probably pretty young. I don't know. Not that young, but he's old enough to start understanding girls, right? Hyde, what does he notice at this time? This is maybe a very male thing, but what do you think? I think this is one of those moments of realization in his life.
They started playing ping pong.
Right.
Then
And is
girl,
he concerned about the game?
the girl took off their high heel shoes, so their stocking getting broken.
Right. So why do you think we're talking about what the girls were wearing?
This time, maybe stocking was very expensive.
That's
so
true.
He's wearing very good.
That's true. But look at this. When they're playing ping pong, right? Their arms and shoulders became flushed. Here, girls lunge forward. The net lunge forward to hit the ball. The stiff neckline of her semi-formal dress dropped away, and the white arcs of her brassiere could be glimpsed cupping fat. Well, they're young, but maybe for the very first time, I don't know how old he is. I would say maybe, I don't know, 13 or 14. I'm not sure. Maybe even I think it's got to be because it says they're wearing a brassiere, so that's kind of like a bra, right?
Yeah.
So I think this.
I think
Go ahead.
stocking and bare shoulder and white axe of her brassiere. That's a symbol of conscious of protagonist's awareness of girls. So
for the first time, perhaps.
For the first time, he was still young, and he had no any romantic relationship with girls.
Right.
And he was naive, but in this day he was aware of the sexuality of girls.
Yeah. Because it doesn't say that the brassiere was cupping her breasts, because they're probably too young. It's just cupping fat. In other words, they're young girls. They're not fully developed yet. But maybe for the first time, he's seeing a little more skin than he's ever seen before. So it's like this first moment. But also, this is a Halloween party where everyone's dressed up in costume. It's kind of a fantasy play world, just like the sleigh and the reindeer and the Santa Claus and the colored lights from before. This world of kind of play and carnival, right? And so that's kind of important because he's remembering that first party. And this party, now that he's 20 or 19, is somehow a continuation of that party. And I think we're going to find out why in just a second. Let's see if we're going to have to let me see if we can just, because we're running out of time. Maybe what I can do is, who's here?
Only I have a question, sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
In the last of this sentence, here is the expression, oil cans twice punctured by triangles. What does it mean?
Good question. What is that?
I don't have an image of this.
Hold on a second. Among Schumann's power mower and badminton poles and empty bronze motor oil cans, that's literal. So I guess they're in the basement and all the automotive equipment is down there, like the oil for the car, right? And the
what
badminton...
triangle means here?
It means triangles, really, the shape. When you open the oil can, you have to make 2 holes in it so that the oil will come out. So one for the air and one for the oil. So it's just two holes.
That's the two-fold. Okay.
Yeah. All these images were lost in the whirl of our running. We were dizzy before we stopped. Okay.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing, because I tried to cut down the story to a few paragraphs, but it's still taking longer than I thought to read it. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do this because we're running out of time. We're out of time, actually. Because what we need to do is we need to read something about the party, we need to read something about after the party, and then we would need to read the conclusion. So I'm not exactly sure how to do this because we're out of time today.
I have read the whole story with great difficulty.
Yes.
So I understand the whole story now, but it is quite challenging text for me. But I think it's very interesting.
It's not easy even for a native speaker because it has a lot of details. It has a lot of details, but they're important. They're not important to understand the story, but they're important because they have. Remember the quote in the very beginning, the idea that I simplified it by saying transforming dead things into spirit. So all these details somehow have something greater about them. Part of it is just the feeling or the environment, the feeling of the time, of the age, and of the environment. This really typical American upbringing in kind of an every small town America feeling. Like you could read this in almost any state in the country and relate to it. So there's something kind of very general and American about it. In a way. In a way, no. He's also very East Coast and intellectual in another way. But yes, there's something we can kind of relate to. So I think it's there. And so it's not easy because there's so many details. Well, I think what we need to do, I don't know. What do you think?
It took me more than 10 hours.
Oh my God! No,
read
no,
until end.
no! Don't spend that much time.
I think it is very difficult to cope with all the text in the class.
It is, but
and I have many questions.
But let's do this. Why don't we? The best I can suggest is why don't we in the next short story class on Tuesday? Why don't we discuss it in that class? Because there's just too much to do before. There's two more parts we really should read
I think
together.
there are many things to discuss about this text.
So let's spend the first 15 or 20 minutes, not more than that, but just the beginning quarter of the class looking at two important passages, and we'll have 40 or 45 minutes to talk about it on Tuesday. Let's do it like that. So I won't start a new short story on Tuesday. Okay, we'll pick up on this one. If you haven't read the rest of it, then you'll have a chance to try to read it on your own. Okay, and maybe what I can do is add a few questions for you to think about between now and then. I think it's the best way. Otherwise, there's just too much to do, and I don't know. So let's pick it up on Tuesday. Does that sound okay with everyone? Are we cool?
Okay.
Yeah?
Sounds good.
No?
Yes.
Otherwise, I can try to schedule another time. I could, but I think it might be better to have the class very regularly, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that way people can know what to expect. If I make another class on another time, I don't know, it might be confusing. So I'll put a note that everyone should read the story before class, and I'll try to add a few comprehension questions, things you should think about as you read, okay? We're just going to pick up a few highlights in the first 15 minutes of the class, and we're going to be discussing those questions and your thoughts and your interpretation of the events and stuff for the rest of the class. Okay?
Only I have a question quickly.
Sure.
Can I? We skipped a previous sentence, and there is a. I didn't understand what happened in previous text. For example, Daddy could provide India ink. What does it mean?
Larry is going to forge.
What's the matter with India ink here?
Larry is going to
you're talking
forge
about
the
license,
driver's license.
driver's license. Why
Right.
why Indian ink?
Because India ink is permanent ink and it's dark.
Ah,
So they
so Larry could help to forge
exactly.
driver's license. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the end of this sentence, 21. Yeah. What is happened here? I don't understand. Why cookie ban is useful here?
Because he is above the drinking age. 21 is the drinking age in Pennsylvania. In New
Drinking
York,
is he is allowed to drink
Yeah.
alcohol. Yeah.
right.
So
He's allowed to buy alcohol. Right.
other member was under 20. Yeah.
Right. They're all under 21.
Why protagonist here gave Cookie his share of money? What does it mean?
Cookie's going to buy the alcohol. He's going to buy it.
I see. So Cookie went out to buy alcohol.
Right.
Yeah. I see.
Because if they forged the passports, not passports, the driving license, and they went to a place that would sell alcohol to minors, if they went there, it says they would really soak you. In other words, they would charge you extra money. So the idea was to get someone who was 21 who could buy it legally and give it to the kids. Well, they're not
I
kids.
understand. In the middle of this sentence, Larry knew illegal place in Alton. What does it mean? Why illegal place here? And they really soaked you. Why it?
Because well,
I'm sorry, I need to go out.
Yeah, me too. I have to start in the next class.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but I have
It's too long.
Look, the illegal place is a place that's willing to illegally willing to sell alcohol, right? Sell alcohol to people under 21.
I see. Here, there,
right.
You can buy alcohol, yeah?
And they soaked you, meaning that they charged you extra money. They soaked you. They charged you extra money. So they knew they were selling it illegally, but they raised the price to make you pay extra because you had no choice if you wanted to buy it and you were under 21.
I see. Thank you.
All right, I have to start the business class. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay?
Okay.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.